Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm going to talk all about my experience at KISS Kruise Landlock in Las Vegas. Lots to cover on this episode. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today, I have with me my comrade, all dressed for the fall season.
Boo, boo.
How you doing, Bloody?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I don't like the cold. I don't like to change the
I know.
season. Just I'm getting grumpier and grumpier as I get older. In the East Coast here, where it starts 30 degrees, the
Yes.
wind, boo, boo, boo.
Yes, yes, it's funny because literally, so coming home from the cruise, I was there,
Oh, I see what you did there.
my wife and my son, and my wife left Sunday morning. I left Monday morning. So I texted her once I was landing. I was coming home from the report, and my first text message to her was that I landed. My second one was, I hate this freaking cold.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was
It's
literally the first. I went from palm trees, and it was cold there the last day. I'll talk about that when we get to it. But I went from palm trees to friggin' trees with no leaves on them, basically. Like boo,
hmm.
boo, boo.
Did you go to a horse with no name too?
Yeah, I did go to a horse and no name. Yeah. Oh man,
You
good
know,
clean fun, good clean
you
fun.
know.
But anyway, we wanted to
Yeah,
get up. Obviously, I think everybody here knows that watches or listens to the show. I did attend the Kiss Cruise Landlocked in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, Vincent did not. But you got to experience it through, I'm sure, the interwebs, and you
yeah.
see a lot of what's going on. And I think when we were texting that we were going to do this, you said, well, just know, Vincent, I'm going to take over your show today, which is usually what we do on these cruises when I go and you don't. You always say you're going to take over and ask me the questions. Now, I will say I did prepare like 2 pages of notes so I didn't forget everything that happened because there was a
Hmm.
lot of stuff, and I'm sure I'll still forget stuff, but I will let you fire away the questions if you would like.
Well, I'll fully admit it. I am totally unprepared. I'm going to fly off the seat of my pants. I have enough experience doing this that
Yes.
I think I know what I'm doing. So
Yes.
let's just start with the overall traveling and going there. How was that with everything going on? Was that pretty relatively smooth?
See, that's why you're good because I didn't even put a note about that. Yes, yes, remarkably. And so I just said
Yep.
that, my wife came home a day before me because she had to get back to work. Me, my son, my wife all had separate flights, either going or coming home, right? So we had like a plethora of flights. My son was flying indirect. He had a layover in Chicago, not one delay. In fact, every flight landed early, which was
Hmm.
friggin' incredible. We actually, all of us got to Vegas within 10 minutes of each other,
Oh, that's awesome.
which is just, yeah, I mean, how could you plan that? It was
You
just,
can't.
yeah, it was unbelievable, unbelievable. So
Yeah.
yes, everything with that went picture perfect. And we checked in to the hotel, bam, the night before the event began. So we actually all arrived. It was around 10 o'clock on Thursday evening, and the event was
Yeah.
beginning on Friday. So yeah,
Okay.
that went nice and smooth.
Okay, good. So you arrive at the hotel itself.
Yes.
And what's your first impressions of when you walk in? Were you immediately oh, okay, now it's like because when you do a cruise, as soon as you go onto the cruise, I forgot what they said. What does it say on the thing? Like you're about to have a great time, or
Yeah,
what is
something
it?
like that. Yeah, you
Something
think
like
I'd
that.
remember. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Prepare to be
You
high
even
five. They used to have
yeah,
signs up,
yeah.
prepare to be high five. Yeah.
Prepare to
Yeah.
be towed. That's the kind
Prepare to be
we
third.
petitioned.
That's right.
We petitioned for that.
I did. I
Anybody want a
tried to tell Pop
pretzel?
House, put up a sign, prepare to be thawed, but they looked at me and they just threw a tomato at me or something.
Yeah,
So,
look for a
uh,
pretzel stand.
yeah, no,
But
no. When I arrived, it was, I mean, they did an incredible, incredible job. And I'm going to say this. even leading up to the arrival, right? The week of the event, even the few months before the event, let's be honest, right? There seems to be a little confusion on fans' parts as to what exactly this is. Is this a cruise? Is this a KISS Expo? Gene is in interviews calling it an expo and kind of saying, oh, maybe the band will get up on stage and do a couple of songs.
Yeah, was
Is
that
Eric
was
going to be there? Is Eric not going to be there? There was a lot of confusion leading up. And then even a couple of days beforehand, there was a lot of confusion for the people who were going on how to get the tickets to the show. So just like as I'm going there that day, I'm like, oh man, I hope that this goes okay. Right. That's my first thought. And then to your point, I arrive. And the second you arrive, there's the sliding glass doors, the beautiful hotel, sliding glass doors to enter the hotel. And they're ceiling to floor, wall to wall, KISS Kruise. Like it's covered with like whatever they would put over like a window to cover it. And you walk into the hotel and there's just this KISS stuff everywhere. Walls KISS stuff, elevator banks at KISS stuff. They've got Eric's piano that he was using or sitting at during the End of the Road tour to play Beth. They've got in the merch store the dressing rooms of like their mirrors and where they put the makeup on. There's just this KISS stuff everywhere. There's KISS music playing. There's 80s rock music playing so my first impression when I walked in, like, yeah, that's the flavor. That's good. All right, they did a great job. And I just started walking around, just looking at everything because it was really, really done perfect is the best way for me to say it. Really, really great job they
but
did
they
with that.
but they were calling it a Kiss Cruise still, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the glass doors as you walked in said KISS Cruise, and I had to wonder if there was anybody in the hotel that wasn't there for the KISS event. They're thinking cruise. Oh, I'm in the middle of the land over here.
That's my question. Is
Yeah,
that you think it's still a good way to market this as a cruise? Because anything a
yeah.
cruise is a ship,
Of course, of course.
you
Look,
know.
it is confusing, needless to say, if you don't know. Yeah,
I know it
if
says
you
landlocked.
of course, no. Look, if you're not in the KISS circle and you
Yeah,
hear that, if I went to work and I said to people, "Hey, I went on a KISS cruise this weekend," their first thing's going to say, "Where'd you cruise to?" And if I
right.
said I was in a hotel in Las Vegas, they're going to say, "Why was it a cruise?" Right? So,
Hmm.
yeah. Look, it's a confusing brand and name, no doubt about it. But I understand they're trying to paint a picture that this is just like being on the boat, only you're somewhere different. And the cruise was that whole event, not being on a ship. Oh, okay, whatever. It had a
It's a bit of a
lot.
stretch.
It's
It's
a
a
little
bit
bit
of a
of a
stretch.
stretch. It's a little
But
bit of
the
a stretch. Yeah.
but the bottom line is because I only did one, and I remember they made the hotel what they did. I remember when you were on the cruise ship, the elevator banks, they had the images on
And they
the
did that
doors
in
with so
every elevator bank that
so
was there. Yes.
so you're talking about a full hotel,
Mhm.
as opposed to a ship. Would you say there was more of like the memorabilia? Because I remember on part of the ship you went into wasn't really a room.
Yep.
It was like it was an area of the ship where it had some Kiss stuff. I mean, it
Yeah.
had some jeans bases, things of that such. Would you say that there was about the same, more or less of that stuff?
Different. Different.
Okay.
Probably the same. It was spread out in different areas. So, for example, outside, there was a stage that Kiss where they did their first acoustic show. And then off to the side of the stage, there was an area where they had a huge light up Kiss logo that was on their stage back in 2010, right? So it was literally the logo that they used on the Hottest Show on Earth
Was
tour. And you could
was
take
that the
pictures
was
with it.
oh that wasn't the weird logo that had the weird K in
No,
there.
no, no, no. They used that one actually on the stage. This one
Yeah,
was,
so yeah,
yeah,
I don't
go
want to jump to that because I
ahead.
was like, and then I saw that I was like, what? But then I saw they had used it on what the heck was it? Was it a
At the Intrepid
right,
when they,
exactly.
yep, yep,
Right.
yeah, it's
So
had a
was
few,
that
and they've used
so
it a
was
few
that reason
times.
why they brought it there? Was it because of that, or
Well,
did they
that's
say,
not the one I'm
hey,
talking about.
all right, I'm like,
The,
where's that Kiss logo? Hey, you know what? Bring that one from the Intrepid. That'll because that K just looks. It's not the proper K.
it's
So that's
not
the
the
first thing
proper
I'm saying.
K.
When you see the
Yes,
Kiss logo on the stage, it's like,
it's not the proper, and we'll talk
I'm
about
like,
that.
yeah,
That's the logo they had on the indoor show, right? But
right.
I'm just saying, around the hotel, there was areas where you could see their costumes. Literally, like in the merch store, there was an area where they had like all the mirrors set up, like a table set up where like they would do their makeups, and they kind of recreated the backstage spot where they would do their makeup. There was just a lot of cool stuff around like that. There seemed to be, I'm going to say, more Kiss theming around. It's just that the area is so much bigger that it was spread out all over the
Well, I
place.
would say, I mean, I would think that a hotel would, afford the opportunity to kind of be better at kind of setting up,
Hmm.
this type of thing where you want to have to immerse somebody, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they do a great job on the ships.
Yeah.
You really, unless when you're going by the cabins where you don't really see much of anything
Right.
there, but
Right. Right.
in the open spaces or, you know, and like you said, there's music playing. I remember being on the ship, you walk on and you're hearing Kiss music, and when you're by the pool, you're hearing Kiss music,
Yes.
or,
And it was the
so
same thing,
okay,
but although it wasn't only Kiss music, I mean, they did play a lot of 80s rock. You heard White Lion, Poison, Journey. I even
right.
heard Boys Gonna Rock from Vinnie Vincent at one point, and there seemed to be a number of Ace Frehley songs playing. I remember hearing Rock Soldiers, Rip It Out. So they mixed it. It was not only Kiss songs, which I actually
So
liked.
So what I want you to do when we go through any of this,
Yeah.
I know right now, and I could tell by the smile on your face that you're excited about and you had a good
Mhm.
trip. I could tell that already.
Okay.
But I also want you to be not so drunk with love of what you
No,
saw, and to
no,
be
no, no, no.
honest.
I got my criticisms. I got my
Okay,
criticisms.
because there's certain things I'm gonna address, and just
Yes.
so.
Yes.
Okay, so great start. You're on the ship. Everything's like, you got the vibe. Things
I'm
are
not on the
cool.
ship, but
I'm
okay.
the ship. See, he got me confused.
And I'll say this, when you actually check in officially to the event, you get a couple of gifts. So they gave you a vinyl that had two
Hmm.
songs that are not available on vinyl anywhere else. And
What are the two songs?
uh, I think
Oh,
they're
you're right. I
live.
love those
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Right. They're either from 2008 or
Are they
2009.
already on eBay selling for seven thousand
I'm sure they
dollars?
probably, I haven't looked, obviously, but
Yeah,
it's a couple of live songs, I think. Do You Love Me Induced from like 2008, 2009. So, if you're a vinyl collector,
that's
that's
pretty
kind of
cool.
cool, right? So they did that and they gave everybody a signed poster as well.
Okay, so you're there. You said you went there. You got in Thursday night, and this is already happening, even though the event doesn't start on Friday. Technically,
You
is that what
could
you
have,
say?
yeah, you could have checked in on Thursday and got all this stuff. Since I got there at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, I didn't officially check in until the next morning. I checked into my hotel, I went to bed, but I didn't check in with the KISS team to get all my gifts and all until Friday.
Gotcha. So, okay, so Friday. What's the first thing? Because I know there was a pre-kiss event. Did you attend
No,
any of that stuff?
no, I got there too
Okay.
late.
Okay, so was that Thursday then?
That was Thursday night. It was like the pre-party, and I had already
Okay.
had my flights booked getting there at 10, 11 o'clock at night. So,
So officially the event is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they
correct.
didn't do that. They did that on Thursday, so it didn't step on any
Exactly.
toes.
Exactly.
Okay. So now you check in Friday morning. At what time is the first, attraction? Because
So,
Kiss
yeah, yeah.
performed on that Friday, right?
Yes. So
And that was that. Okay. So
So yeah,
what did you see?
the toast, like the welcome toast, and then Kiss performing was at 3:30. Right. So you had a
Okay.
lot of the morning to kind of linger around. There was other things going. There was like a School of Rock band performing. I think there was a Kiss cover band performing. I'll be honest, I didn't have a tremendous amount of interest in that type of stuff. And actually, Friday morning, my wife, my son, and I met friends that we just so happened to have that were in Vegas for the weekend, and we had brunch with them offsite somewhere.
Now, was this Michael brunch or a different type of
It was a
brunch?
different type of brunch. Oh
All right.
man.
So then this is a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Part of, I've been on a bunch of cruises,
Yeah.
not, I mean, on one Kiss cruise, but other is you get there, get all throwed, you got the food, you got the
Yes.
beverages, right? So now you don't have that, right? So
Correct.
now so are you at any point saying, so I don't know if you could figure this out quickly, the difference of what it costs for a cruise experience of what you
Hmm.
normally do
Hmm.
and what this costs, and what is the variance there?
I haven't figured it out. I don't want to figure it out.
Okay,
I would say the cost for the event was similar. I don't know if it
okay.
was more or less, but it was similar. But it did not include food, and it's one less day.
So this is my whole point of why I'm
Yes,
asking this question.
absolutely. And I know why you're
So
asking.
because I mean I love the experience of like, oh, I'm going to run to this, but you know what? I
Yes,
want to get some more chicken wings, or I want to get a slice of
yes,
pizza. You always like, so now you got to fend for yourself. There's food at the hotel for
yes.
the most part. Now, are you eating there? Because I remember you telling me, well, depending on what's going on, I could always leave the hotel. I could do this and
Yep.
that. I'm free
Yep.
to go.
Like I
But
said, I had
so,
the brunch off-site, met friends, and they picked us up, and we went off-site for the brunch on the Friday morning. I never left the hotel after that.
which is kind of what I was
Right.
going to figure based
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
what I saw and the type of things they had there.
Yes. Yes. I never left the hotel. I had every meal at the hotel after that. One of my disappointments, if you will, is that some of the restaurants were closing at 10 o'clock at night. So you'd be getting out of
Yeah.
a concert and you want to go get something to eat. Now, there was a couple of places that were open. I found myself, there was like a pizza place in there. I found myself, and they're very good food. The pizza, the calzones was good. I had a meatball sandwich. The food was excellent in there, but I didn't want to only eat there. And there was one night I went to there was a Chinese restaurant. I went there at 9:50. I was gonna get food. Sorry, we're no longer serving. Concert's just friggin' ended. I'm hungry. I want
Mm.
something to eat. So that was definitely a negative with this,
Yeah, I mean, I think when we went, we had gone in the evening, remember? And
Yeah.
that's when we saw Steven Adler there, and,
Yes,
we took a
exactly.
picture with him. It was like, I think it was like 11:30, 12 o'clock, and people still like,
Yes.
they're eating, and I mean, that's the great part about. So you don't have that. And what are these things kind of costing roughly? Are they like, oh wow, I got to pay, $10 for a slice of pizza? Like,
Yeah, it was
well,
egregious. I don't know how else to say it. It was egregious to me. And I was probably eating on the cheaper end because I always ended up in the stand pizza place. But the first night when we got, I think, a couple of calzones and a slice of pizza was $50.
wow.
Yeah. Yep, $50
And they
for
don't give you any sort of like
nothing.
coupons or
Nothing.
anything towards.
Nothing.
So do you think it should be somewhat the responsibility of the organizer of these events to try to I mean, if they're going to do this in the future, say, oh, listen, you're
Hmm.
10% off or something, where, because people who have done these things like yourself
Hmm.
are so used to that experience where they
Yes.
don't have to go into their pocket. I think usually on the cruise ships there might be a couple of restaurants, or maybe the steakhouse where you have to
Right.
pay, if I
Right.
remember.
Yep.
But even that is never egregious. It's never like, oh my God,
No.
I paid, $200 for a steak or whatever,
Yep. In fact, there was one spot that did a breakfast brunch, and that was only like $21 a person, and it was like a buffet type thing.
There's
So
a
that was,
buffet. We're going to eat you.
so I didn't go. My wife and my son did. I forget what I was doing that. I didn't want to miss one of the events, so they went without me. But they said there was a lot of food. I had a number of people saying that was really good, and it was reasonably priced, $21 for a buffet. Um, Somebody I was talking to while I was on the cruise, forgive me, I don't remember who it is, my apologies, had said if they're going to do this in a hotel again next year, they should do it in one of these places that's like an all-inclusive. I was like, that's an interesting concept.
So that was going to be my next. Did you
Yeah.
hear grumblings of people saying, "Oh man, this food, I gotta," that's. Did you hear people grumbling about that?
Once or twice, I heard somebody make a comment about how expensive everything was, but I think everybody knew that going in
Hmm.
already, so it was kind of like acknowledging what you knew was going to happen when you got there, as opposed to saying like, "Oh my God, I'm shocked how expensive this is."
So it's safe to say, when the trip was done, you paid more than you would have paid at the
Yes.
cruise.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Because I always ate
Okay.
in the buffet at the cruise and I never
Right.
had the sit down
And you
meals.
had, like you said, you had one less day.
Yes,
Isn't it two
absolutely.
less days? Isn't it 5 days, the cruise?
Yeah, but the fifth day on the cruise was always like get off the boat at 8 a.m. So I
That's
don't
right.
count that.
That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
yes, I didn't count that.
Okay.
Now,
All
saying
right.
that, my
So,
hotel room was a lot
of
bigger
course.
here
Oh yeah,
than on
yeah,
a
yeah,
boat,
yeah.
Um, the other thing I didn't, and there's no way around it, but I didn't love is I'm not a casino guy at all. I spent $0 in the casino, and
Yeah,
between
you and
me,
me
my
both.
wife, and my son, we spent a combined $0 in the
Yeah.
casino.
I have
But
zero interest in that.
any place you had to go, you basically had to walk through the casino. And again, not being a casino guy, and I hear ding 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 ding, like beep 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 beep, beep,
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It's just not my scene at all. So that was,
Hmm.
just even on the boat, I know there's a casino. I would only step foot in it to buy like the casino chip that they have on an annual
Right. And
basis.
you were never forced to go
No,
through it. You
no.
didn't have to
This
go through
was,
it.
I had to go through the casino to get to my room. You had to go to the casino to get to the show, things like that. So, it just, I was constantly through the casino on a regular
Okay.
basis. Again, just not my thing.
Okay. So let's lead up to, unless there's something else before
Nope.
3:30 that happens.
Nope.
3:30, Kiss is going to hit the stage.
Yes.
Okay. So
I
this
know
is a
what you're going
big
to say.
moment.
Barricade boy. What time did
Yeah, so yeah, Barricade Brun. So I noticed that Barricade Brun really wasn't in effect. So we could
No.
go to that because, like, especially some of the Q&As, I said, "What is he? Was he on the roof?" I was like, wait, So I was a little surprised at that.
Mhm.
So just give me a sense of, because I know what your routine usually was. Like,
Yes.
you are patient, man. you'll go 3 hours before. Was this more because you were with your wife and your son? Oh, shit,
Yeah,
is
whatever.
that why?
In part, yes. I mean, my son is away at college now, and I've seen him for 6 hours since August.
Right,
So to me, he was coming, he flew, he met us there. I'd rather spend the time hanging out with him than making sure I could be up close for the KISS show. That was just the
right,
way I felt. So
yeah,
the KISS show was scheduled to start at 3:45. Like I said, they were doing a toast at 3 o'clock, 3:30. We got outside at around 3 o'clock.
okay.
Just figuring at that point that, all right, it's getting close. Let's get out there. Now, I'll also say this, the way the event was, because this is kind of important, the way the event was set up is that everything that was taking place happened in, I'm going to say, one of two types of scenarios. Scenario one was it was in the main theater where KISS did their indoor
Hmm.
show. And that's where all the concerts, for the most part, would take place, is in the main theater. If you were going in the main theater, you had to have your ticket. And your ticket was on an app. Your ticket was your assigned seat for every single thing in the theater. Whether it was a
Okay,
Q&A, whether it was a concert, you had the assigned seat the entire time.
okay.
Anything that wasn't in the theater was then like a general admission type thing. And that's where you needed your laminate to get into there. Okay. So that caused a little bit of confusion with some people. First off, I heard some people grumbling that they didn't love, wait, I need to have an app for the ticket and I need to have a different app for the schedules. That didn't faze me in the slightest bit, but I did hear some people grumbling about needing different apps. The acoustic show was not in the theater. It was in the spot outside by the pool. So that was not an assigned seat. And that's where you
Which
just
is
have it.
cool.
Yeah,
Which was a
exactly.
nice idea.
Exactly. So I just
And what was the
decided
weather like?
it was nice that day. It was 70 degrees. I was in shorts and a t-shirt and I was very comfortable out there. By Sunday, it was freezing out there, dropped 20 degrees and very windy and cold. But on Friday, thankfully, it was really nice out there. Shorts, t-shirt, and you were very comfortable out there.
Okay,
Very comfortable. And I got
okay,
there, like I said, about a half hour before the toast. I was about halfway back and totally content with that.
okay. Now, what are you feeling at that point? Okay, now you know it's the full band,
Yep.
right? It's not like, oh, well, who's going to be the drummer? It's like, all
Yep.
right, this is the same band I saw when I kind of rolled my eyes at
Hmm.
Madison Square Garden after seeing the avatars. As we're making no secret about that.
Yep.
What would you say your level of Tho level was at that point?
A seven, maybe.
Okay, okay.
And I told you this before I left. My
But now you're
expectations,
there. But
yes,
now you're there.
yes,
Okay. Now
yes.
you're like, oh wow, this is really happening.
Of course,
Okay.
no, it's definitely. But my expectations, I did not have great expectations, to quote Gene. Right?
Yeah.
My expectations was low. I think I've made
Hmm.
it known that I was disappointed with the final Kiss show,
Hmm.
and to me, it was like, all right, there was a lot of confusion leading up to the event in all. And is Eric going to be there? Is not going to be there? Is it going to be a full band? What is it going to be? So, I tempered my expectations going into
Okay.
this. Is
Okay.
quite honestly, yeah. And
Yeah.
then, so and I'll just say this, they start the so they come out, they do a toast and all of that, and they start the show. And I don't know if you saw this online with saying Paul says a few words about Ace, and they have a moment of silence. And it just seemed odd to me. It just seemed and they had to do it. Obviously, they have to do it. Um, didn't feel 100% genuine. I'm going to be honest. It didn't feel genuine. It felt like
Well,
they had to do it.
okay. So let me just give my opinion on that
Yeah.
because I've read the quotes and I heard what was said.
Mhm.
And to me, could be wrong on this. I feel like when we spoke about it after Ace Pass was more sincere and whatever than
Mhm.
the guy who was with them all
Yeah.
those years. I mean, I just found it weak, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. No, look, I agree. And look, I'll talk about subtle little things and sometimes not so subtle little things that both Tommy and Bruce did during the event that I thought were
Hmm.
very classy. But I just felt
Okay.
like this just felt when Paul was talking, it felt a little forced to me. I don't know how else to
Hmm.
say it. So it was an
Yeah.
awkward way to start it. I know a lot of people who were there thought it was really nice, and afterwards they were like, "Oh, that was so nice. That was very touching." So for the people who were there, I might have been in the majority, and my
Hmm.
minority rather. But it just was an awkward way to start. Necessary though. I don't want anybody to think that I'm not saying this. I
Yeah.
wish it was more sincere. I think I would have felt different if it was really an emotional thing. This just felt like, all right, we have to say a few words about Ace. Let's do that. Let's have a moment of silence. All right, that's done. Let's get started. That's just what
And
it
to
felt like to me.
and to paraphrase, for people who don't know, what did he say?
Oh, I don't even remember, to be honest, because it
And
didn't
was it
have any
only
kind of impact on me.
was it only Paul who said something?
I believe so.
Yeah, because
I
I think
remember the
yeah,
next day Paul brought up Ace again during
yeah.
his cooking thing, and I think he said something along the lines of, acknowledging Ace's passing, and I hope Ace led the life that he wanted to lead. And again, it felt a
I read that quote
little
and I was
cold
just
to
like,
me.
yeah, yeah.
It seemed a little odd to me. I don't know. That was
Because
just
it's
me.
almost like you could almost read that as like saying, yeah, what everything that Ace did,
Yeah.
wink, wink. You know what I'm talking about. I hope he lived the life that it's just I
Look,
I
I don't know what's going on in Paul's mind, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Everybody grieves in different
well,
ways, but it felt a little weird to me.
listen, I forgot who the guy who passed was. It was someone who was in the KISS camp.
Yes. Yes, I know who you mean.
Remember him?
Yes,
And
yes,
Paul wrote a thing
yes. Hmm.
about this person, which
Yep.
quite honestly, with every quote that's been out, I know Paul made the quote about, oh, I heard this guitar player playing, and I was like, oh, that's my guitar player.
Yes.
Cool quote, but where the
I wanted more. I wanted
where
more
you
from
felt the
him.
love for
Yes.
these guys,
Yep.
you know, I, I hate that quote. We could have started with them, we couldn't continue it.
Yes.
I just,
Yes.
I,
And I think I heard it at least
every,
twice over the weekend.
I mean, please, like, just stop with that
Yes.
quote. It's like
Yes.
you've said it, and especially now, you don't need to hear it.
Of course.
So
Absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely.
all right, I'll get off
So,
my little.
yeah,
Yeah,
no. So look, I went into the event with low expectations. It kicked off there with a little bit of an awkward feeling to me.
yeah.
So the show starts and they kick it off with Coming Home, which, as you know, for 30 years or 40 years probably is one of my favorite Kiss songs. Even before, long
Mm-hmm.
before they ever did it on MTV Unplugged, it was one of my favorite songs. So instantly my toe level shoots up. Even though, look, people are going to say, oh, they do that all the time. You had to know it was coming. Did not matter to me. All of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm back in that moment again. And the first thing I noticed is like, Paul sounds decent. I'm not going to say great.
I was just gonna ask you.
Nobody's going to mistake it for 1986 or 1995 or even 2005. But I'm like, all right, he sounds decent. He's not pushing himself. You can see he's trying to hold back a little bit. He's not pushing himself too much. And I'm like, oh, this is promising. All right, that's good. The second song was See You Tonight. And Gene actually sounds hoarse. I'm like, holy crap. Paul
Mm,
actually right now sounds a little bit better than Gene does, which
mm,
totally took me by surprise. Um, the show was scheduled for 45 minutes. So I knew it was something they added late in the process. I knew it wasn't going to be a long show. They played for an hour. So,
okay.
I felt more than satisfied. I was very surprised they did Hide Your Heart during the acoustic show. And the place went nuts when he said,
Mm.
we're going to do one called Hide Your Heart. And the people all around, that song got the biggest reaction from any other song that
Well,
they did.
I think it's because I mean, look, I've never made no secrets. It's never been one of my favorites from
Yeah.
day one. It's never been one of my favorite. I think the fact that I know Paul made the quote that there's a reason why with the the deep cuts and blah blah blah,
Yes.
which will
Yes.
allude to what wound up happening.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I
And I'll
think
talk
people are
about that when
so
we get to his event that he said that at. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So, Kiss fans, the people who go to these are not typically the casual, they want to hear the deep cuts and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So yeah, I did see that. But, my only opinion of this is that these things are a scheduling thing, and again, I'm coming from a different frame of mind.
Mhm.
You say, oh, they played for an hour, they played what? They played 10 songs.
10, 11 songs, something like that. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, to me, this is something that happens once a year. Yeah, I'd say I'm any better. I do a set the other night. My first set, I'm doing 18 songs,
Right.
and then the second, so I'm just thinking like you're there. It's like this is an event that costs a good amount of money.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think personally, I would have loved to hear more than just 10 songs for an acoustic set.
Mhm.
Whether it's preparation or whatever it is. Especially if it's going to be a lot of stuff you already heard before. Now I know they did
Right.
what they call a
The
flip
electric
show, whatever
show.
they call it,
Uh-huh.
electric show. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion of that? I know you said you were satisfied, but I mean that's why I'm gonna I don't that's why I said on the
Yeah.
onset I said you know get, get out
Look,
of the moment for a second
of
and
course,
just
no,
really
no.
think about what I'm
Even on the
saying.
last cruise I was on the boat, the sail away show was only 65 minutes.
Yeah,
So at this point, that is my expectation. So I was going in expecting even less. I was expecting 45 minutes. I got 60.
yeah.
I got 11 songs, I think it was. I felt, and one of the things I liked about the show is that it felt casual.
Hmm.
You know, dare I even say it felt like it wasn't fully rehearsed. I know they had a set list that they were following for the most part, but I heard a few people spoke with me after the show and they were tremendously disappointed with the performance at the acoustic show, that it
And
did
why is
not
that?
feel, because they felt it wasn't rehearsed enough. They felt the band wasn't tight, that even Tommy made a few mistakes, which is so unlike Tommy. And my exact words to every one of them was, I understand that. I said, but when I think of acoustic shows, I always liked the feel of when they did acoustic shows in 95. And it was just like they would try a song if they didn't know it. It was very
Hmm.
casual. That's what I like about an acoustic show. I like the casual element. I said, if they go into the electric show and then not fully rehearsed, then I'll agree with you guys. But there was a few people that felt like the acoustic show wasn't as tight as it should be. Did not
Hmm.
phase me in the slightest bit. I left there. The only thing to me with the acoustic show that I don't even want to say it was a disappointment, but again, it's just Paul being Paul. So they played for an hour. They were basically done. I think the last song they did was Love Her All I Can. And then Paul's just talking for a minute and he makes reference to the crowd loving him. And he says, oh, come on, guys, let me hear. Do you love me? And then Eric's like, Paul, what? Do you love me? And he starts playing Do You Love Me on the drums. And you can see like Gene and Tommy are going to get ready to play it. And Paul's like, okay, thank you. Goodbye. Just like, come on, Paul. It's just,
Really? Well, we
yeah,
know you've said it before. When Paul wants something done, he's done.
yes, yes. And you could tell the other three of them were willing to do one more song. And it just was an odd way to end the show. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it was an awkward way to end the show to me, you know.
Yeah.
But but again, I'm being honest. I did hear some feedback from a few people that did not. In fact, one person said to me, quote, that was the worst Kiss show I've seen in my life.
Hmm.
I did not agree with it, but I'm just reporting what was said to me.
Okay, so so you want to give the complete set list of what they did?
If you have
You
it in
have it.
front of you, because I'm not going to have it memorized, I know it started with Coming Home, See You Tonight. They did a little bit of like a Beatles goof jam after that. Then it starts to become a
Let's see if,
blur to me.
yeah, I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to bring up now.
Yeah. I mean, I know that they did Love Her All I Can. I know they did Going Blind. I know they did, what else did they do?
Um, did they
Plastic
do
Caster. They did Plastic
Nothing to
Caster.
Lose?
I think they did Nothing to Lose. Yeah.
Christine 16?
Yes. Christine 16. Yeah.
Hard
Yeah.
Luck Woman?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. World Without Heroes?
Yes. Hmm.
And I guess I'll Be Back was the partial Beatles cover. I
Yeah. Yeah.
guess
It
they
was
did.
like 45 seconds of goofing
And
around there.
Beth?
They
Beth?
did that. Yeah. Hmm.
I think that's everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And when they were doing Plastic Cast, I remember, I'm trying to remember how he did it, but Eric was changing the words when he was doing the harmony backgrounds, um, like referencing that she had a plaster of Jean, even though we
Hmm.
know she doesn't, but he was just having fun with it. And I was like, at that moment, I was like, I'm glad Eric's here. Because he always adds like a certain element of comedy and the way he interacts with the guys or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm so glad he's here right now. So yeah, but
So
it was,
what
it
were you
was
saying?
good.
So what you're saying about the unrehearsed? Because it's seeing in my notes here, it says they did like take three takes of Christine 16. Um, stopped to, it says they stopped it so Paul could make the Christine 60 joke.
Yes.
Then take two says in-ear monitor problems. Gene and Paul joked on how they stole each other's songs. Is
Yes,
this all
yes.
true? What
Yeah,
happened?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So thank you for the reminder. Yeah. So they
Yeah.
started Christine 16. I mean, I'm talking like 6 or 8 bars. It wasn't like it was stuff. And
Yeah.
then Paul's like, wait, hold it, hold it. Or yeah, the genius like, stop. Paul, don't you want to tell the joke? And I was like, oh, I'm going with the Christine 60 joke. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he purposely stopped them just so Paul could say the joke. Then when they
Yeah.
started again, it was like, again, 6 or 8 bars. And they're like, hold it, hold it. No, we can't hear. And they stopped it or whatever. So,
Right.
but it
Okay.
was to me, it was whatever. I didn't
Okay.
care about that.
So from 1 to 10 rating, where are you rating this show?
6.5.
Okay. Now, was that more because of the set list? Was it more because of the performance, the vocals and whatnot? All right.
Um,
So,
yeah,
and just before you answer that question,
yeah.
would you say that Paul sounded stronger? I know it's an acoustic show, and maybe we could get to that when we get to the
Hmm.
electric show. But did you think like, oh wow, like we like pleasantly surprised on Paul's tone sounded maybe a little stronger? Was it about the same? Was it any worse?
I don't think it's gotten any better. I
Yeah.
think he didn't push himself that much this weekend, which was
Okay.
smart. which was very
Right.
smart. If you look at the set list for the acoustic show, I think it's even more favored towards Gene's songs. I know Eric sang one song.
Yeah.
So they were smart about it. Also, I think if I remember right, Paul might have only sang 4 songs during the acoustic show, which is what they should do at this point. And he definitely, like, even when he was talking at the electric show, he wasn't doing like the Paul Stanley, like high pitched talk. He was he actually sometimes sounded a little bit like an old man. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, he was just more subdued, but I think that's
Hey,
smart. I
and
think that's freaking
remember,
smart.
it's another 2 years, right? It's
Yes,
another
it
two
is.
years. I
It
mean,
is.
these
It
things
is.
get harder and harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Paul McCartney's in his 80s, God bless him, but
Agreed.
these guys, I hear every year it's a notch, another notch gets taken off. It's just what
Yeah.
age does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I'm
Okay.
saying 6.5, maybe it was a 7, but it was like in that range somewhere. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would never put it in my quote unquote top 10 Kiss shows, but I left that show happy, is the best way for me
Okay.
to say it. I left it happy. There was nothing that happened that I said, oh, gee, I'm disappointed that they didn't do A, B, C, or D. I got exactly what I expected, nothing more, nothing less. And I was happy with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
All
I'll
right.
just say this last comment about the show. I went live for the first 2 songs just to give people on my experience page the opportunity to kind of see or hear a little bit of what was going on. And I had a number of people thank me, which, I appreciate that. No reason to, and then there was a number of people saying, Jake, see a lot of bald heads, hold up the camera. I've said this before. I'm going to say this one more time. When I go to a show, when I'm filming something, I never hold the camera to my face. I want to see it with myself, and I'll never hold it above my head because that's inconsiderate to everybody else who plays there, who's paid to be there. I always hold it right below here.
I've witnessed it several times.
Yes. And if that means in this particular case, because I wasn't on the barricade, that you're getting some heads in the way, that's what you get. It drives me crazy when somebody holds a camera above their
I
head,
saw I
and I'll
saw a
never
couple
be that
comments.
guy.
Could you put the camera high? I'm like,
Yeah. Nope. And the answer is
no.
no. No, I won't,
Yeah.
because there's somebody
Yeah.
behind me that paid a lot of money to be there, and I'm always going to be respectful of that. So,
Absolutely.
and 90% of the comments, people were very thankful. People private messaged me thanking me. But I want that to be known. I'm never going to hold that camera up and block somebody else's view. I'll do it for a quick picture, snap, put it right
Hmm.
back down. Two
Hmm.
seconds. I'm not
Hmm.
filming 2 songs above my head like that. So just want to say that. So
Hmm.
that's that.
Okay. So you have the Kiss show,
Yes.
and what do you have in after that? What's happened
So I
happening?
don't remember if this happened. I think it happened after the Kiss show. There was a panel that day with Eddie Kramer, and the guy's name is Jeff Four. Jeff Four, I think his last name was, from Universal. And they're talking about the box sets, the Just to Kill and the box sets. And it's in the theater, which, like I said to you now, you need a ticket to get in, and you sit in your assigned seat. And I showed up, it was like 3 or 4 minutes late, so I don't remember what I was doing. And the first thing that hits me is that the theater is empty. I mean, this place
Yeah,
holds
that's what I
4,000
saw.
people, 3,000 people, whatever it holds, and there can't be more than a couple hundred people in there. And
Yeah.
what makes it look even worse, if you're watching like you did online, if somebody posted it, everybody's in their assigned seats. So it's not like there's 300 or 400 people. They're all sitting in the front where you'd say, "Oh, it's a nice crowd." No, you've got 400 people scattered all over the place. It's just not smart. They should have just let everybody. Maybe they did, and maybe I just went to my own seat. But it seems like everybody was just sitting in their own seats. But
Hmm.
the panel itself, I don't know if you watched the video.
Some of it.
I thought it was freaking great. I wish
Yeah.
Eddie Kramer had a chance to speak more. In fact, I wouldn't have minded 2 separate panels because the two of them had so many great stories to share. But to me, it was great hearing how these box sets came about. We got the answer of why Cleveland is only the 4 or 5 songs that are on the box set. I don't know if you heard that part or not.
No.
Okay,
Don't
so
reveal it.
3 reels for the Cleveland show. They were only able to find one of the 3 reels.
Yeah.
So he said if ever they find the other ones, they'll release it as like off the soundboard or something like that. He said they looked for a while, they couldn't find it. They were only able to find one of the 3 reels.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay. And then I'll just say this because I know we previously also did a podcast on the box set, and I said Rock and Roll All Night was missing from 2 of the shows, Davenport and Wildwood. I actually went back. I have a bootleg of the Wildwood show, and Rock and Roll All Night is not on the bootleg either.
Hmm. That's
So,
interesting.
so I don't think they performed it at those shows. I take my comment back. I think those shows are complete on the box set.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. That makes more sense.
yeah. But it was interesting hearing them talk about, and I think Eddie Kramer was talking about at one point, one of the songs, I don't think they said which song, they said it was like the third or fourth song, that Gene's bass was completely out of tune. Did you hear that story?
No,
Okay.
I got to be honest. I didn't. There's a lot of content there, and I haven't really sit down
Yeah, of course. No,
to
you'll enjoy. I think you'll really enjoy
yeah.
listening to that one. Um, Eddie Crane was saying that one of the songs, Gene's bass was completely out of tune the entire time. But because they had all the tracks, they were able to take the original guitar, the original drums, the original vocal, and then adjust his bass track. So you're hearing the
Mm.
original bass track that was recorded, but it is now in tune.
Yeah, they digitally tuned it to
Right.
whatever. Yeah,
I'm like,
which is
oh,
cool.
that's pretty interesting. So he said we didn't
Yeah.
change anything, we didn't re-record anything. I just was able to adjust it so that it was in tune
Hmm.
with everything else. He's like, that's something we
Yeah.
couldn't have done in 75. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, if you have a chance, that's online. I did not post that. I filmed it and somebody else posted it before I did, and I was fine, whatever, just I let it be. Um, but if you could watch that, I think you'll
Okay.
really enjoy that. So that was during the day, and then the evening was Quiet Riot and Stephen Pearcy, Warren D. Martini concerts.
Okay. So what's your opinion? Because I saw a couple opinions on that. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, on which one? Which one do you want first?
Well, let's talk about the Quiet Riot.
Yeah. Look, Quiet Riot, make a case, is that really Quiet Riot or is it a cover band? I know Rudy Sarzo was there, a wonderful person.
Sarzo or Starzo?
I think it's Starzo now. A wonderful person. I had nothing but good things to say about Rudy. Obviously, you can't replace two members who have passed away. That's just, that, not that you can't replace them. They can't be there, right? So, tough situation. What's interesting, I never dawned on me until about halfway through the Rat set. Um, Carlos from Quiet Riot is playing guitar with Stephen Pearcy.
Right, which is
so,
yeah.
so it would have been cool if he came up with Quiet Riot and did a song. It just makes me feel there's some kind of bad blood there. But Quiet Riot was good for what they're doing, but is it Quiet Riot? No disrespect to the guys who are
Well,
doing it. They do it
same
very
thing like with
well.
Foreigner now. This is
Right.
like zero. Well, Lou Graham, I think, is back in the fold a little bit now too. I think
Yeah.
Kelly Hansen, he retired or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So, but Lou Graham doesn't do all the shows, but they have another singer and he comes and goes, whatever.
And look, I'll never pass judgment on people who want to make a living. And some of these guys, even like the guitar player that's in Quiet Right's been there for like 20 something years. So it's not like
Yeah,
these are all like guys that just came in tomorrow or yesterday to start doing this. But it was good. It was okay. I mean, they sounded fine. I had no complaints. I just say, is it really Quiet Riot? That's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
And then I guess a half hour after that is when Stephen Pearcy, Warren D. Martini was on. And I've seen some people say Stephen Pearcy sounded horrible. I've heard other people say they think he sounded great. You know, um, I probably land somewhere in the middle. I don't think he sounded horrible. Some people, I saw one person say that was he should never sing again. That was the worst singing I've ever heard in my life. He's a killer. Maybe you've never heard Don Dokken before. Again, no
yeah. Well, it's
disrespect to
true.
Don Dokken,
And
but
let's also remember, Stephen Pearcy was never your prototypical
exactly.
singer. He had I don't even know what you describe his voice as.
Yeah, it's
He
unique.
yeah.
I'll say that. Unique.
Yeah, unique and basically one tone. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It wasn't like he had this tremendous range ever. Where Don
agreed.
Dokken was more, oh, I remember in the 80s, oh, Don Dokken. He was like the
Yeah,
elite,
great voice.
vocalist. Yeah,
Great voice. Yeah, no. And
yeah,
to me, it still sounds like Stephen Pearcy. Maybe he doesn't have, I don't want to say the range he used to have, because like you just said, it's not like he has tremendous range, but you listen into it, if you close your eyes, you can say, oh yeah, that's Stephen Pearcy singing. So and I was saying this after the show. In the 80s, I don't know how you were. I liked Rat. I have like 4 or 5 of their albums. I never loved they never were one of my
yeah.
top
Same
10
here.
bands. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
same
they
here.
did 15 songs and I knew 14 of the 15 or whatever it was. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, like we always say, you go there. Did you feel like it was capturing, the love of what you had for your childhood? Did it bring back those good feelings of hearing the music,
Yeah.
despite of whatever the performance was,
Well, I'll
or were
say
you just like,
this. I'll say this. I don't even know if you know this. The song Round and Round is one of my son's like 10 favorite songs.
right?
Right.
I think I
So
remember you telling me that.
so
Yes.
the fact that they were there and I didn't have to pay to bring my son to see that song performed live. Um,
But you did have to buy him a slice of pizza.
I did have to buy him a slice of pizza, which is probably more than the concert ticket, but no. So I enjoyed it as much as I could have. Again, it's
Hmm.
Rad. I don't love Rad, but when You're in Love came on, of course I was like, "You took the man." How can you not enjoy that?
Right.
Songs like Back for More is a great song, Wanted Man. These are just the good songs. They're very good
Hmm.
songs. So
Hmm.
I think my only disappointment, and this is just a personal thing, I think The Morning After was always my favorite Rat song, and they didn't do it. And I know a lot of times and when I saw them like 7, 8 years ago, they did. So that's a minor thing. I did not leave the
Hmm.
show disappointed. Um, I thought this year the support bands they had at this were excellent. Better than they did ever on the boat. Now you might have a personal preference. You might say, "Oh, I like Night Ranger better than." That's fine. I do personally, but I don't recall any of the boat cruises where they had so many name bands. In this case, Quiet Riot. I'll say Rad, Sebastian Bach, right? So I mean, there was decent support artists with them. Bruce Kulick, obviously. So I'll say kudos for them. They did, I think, a good job with that.
So it's funny you say that because when we spoke privately about this, you said you felt like they needed one more.
I did at first, yes. And
Yeah.
then once I was there, I realized no. In fact, I ended up
Mm.
missing some of the events during the afternoon because it was back-to-back stuff all day long.
Now, now let's talk about the back-to-back stuff.
Yeah,
You know, I saw, Gene did the pick,
which
contest,
I
throwing
missed.
thing, right? Or Paul did his cooking thing. Did you feel in the sense of like, all right, guys, you kind of done this already. I'd like to
Yes.
see something new.
100%. So that's
Okay.
literally, I wrote that in my notes. I said,
Yeah.
cooking with Paul. Here's my notes. Time to change this event.
Yeah.
It's like what I enjoy about those events is because I did go to the Cooking with Paul one, is when he's talking about his solo album, when he's talking about playing the Sphere or not, when he's talking about playing deep cuts and things like I enjoy that. I much rather that than so I'm going to make this. I'm going to add this spice and that. I don't care. Cooking with
Yeah.
Paul. I don't care. That was the second day. So I'm kind of jumping now a little bit to the second day. But yes, I think some of these events need to be changed. They've kind of run their course. Now, saying that, it seems like it was about 50% of the people who were there had never been on a cruise, the KISS Cruise before. So it was new to them, right? So
To be fair, that's what I was
yeah,
going to say. You
right.
can't, you're looking at it through a narrow lens, your own lens.
Yeah.
And, a lot of those things will maybe excite people. Did they do any? I know years they did like a shred thing, a guitar thing. They did a drum thing. Did they do any of those type of things?
They did on the last day, they did a Name That Tune, and it was with Tommy and Eric. And they've done that before on the boat, and I'll be a hypocrite. That's one I hope they don't do away with. To me, that's a lot of fun. And they went back and forth between Tommy playing like a little riff, and then you had to figure out and they had, contestants up on the stage with them, but obviously you're watching, you can try to play along also. Tommy would do a little riff of a song or a solo from a song, and then sometimes Eric would just do like a drum beat from a song, and you'd have to figure out what song it was. To me, that's a lot of fun. And
Hmm.
the two of them banter back and forth with each other. And there was a couple of times like Tommy would do a riff, and Eric would be like, "I have no idea what song that is."
Mm.
So it was kind of funny. But so they did that still. Yes.
Now, I want to jump way back
Yeah.
for a second because we were talking about Ace. Were there any, besides Paul making remarks, whatever, were there any visual kind of tribute, or did they? I don't know, maybe it was short notice. I don't know, but
Mhm.
did you see anything where they kind of did any dedications to him visually?
I can't say that they did dedications in the sense of there was nothing that said like Ace Frehley and from the time he was alive to the time he died, nothing like that. But there was certainly plenty of images of him around the whole place. The band images with him, images of
Now, do
himself.
you think there was more than it would have typically been there,
No,
or you think that was just common?
no,
Okay.
I don't think so because let's be honest, all of that stuff that's hanging up in the event is not being printed the week before. Right? They have to know the
Right.
exact sizes and
Oh
all of
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then it's
yeah.
got to be made. So I think all of that was going to be like that no matter what. When they were doing the acoustic show, when Paul said his few words I was talking about before, they did put a picture of Ace up on a screen behind them.
Yeah.
That's the closest you could say it was visually to a tribute.
Okay. Okay. All right. So so now we're what day are we in right now? Are
So
we
I
on
think
day two?
we kind of finished talking about day one. Day two, I spoke a little bit about the cooking with Paul thing. I'll say
Yeah.
this, and it's important because there'll be a second part to the story. in the morning they were doing meet and greets with somebody else. They split up. There was three different meet and greets. They were doing meet and greets in the morning. The morning one at 10 a.m. was with Stephen Piercy, Warren D. Martini, and then the guys from Quiet Riot. And the way they did this is you get online, and then as you enter the room, it splits into two, and you decide if you want to go to Warren D. Martini and Stephen Piercy, or if you want to go to Quiet Riot. Right. So my son wanted to do that, and I did also. We wanted to meet Stephen Piercy and Warren D. Martini. We did that. We got online. We waited about 45, 50 minutes until we met them, and then we were able to jump on the Quiet Riot line. It went very well. It took us a little over an hour for the whole thing. Both of them were very nice. Rudy Sarzo was, I mean, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in the world, right?
Hmm.
Stephen Piercy, Warren D. Martini were very friendly, took pictures. That went extremely well. And I bring that up because there was one in the afternoon that did not go extremely well, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But so that was the morning. Then I did
You
the
have to
cooking
pay
with.
for that?
No, no, that's included. The only things they
Okay.
said on you can only get one thing signed, which I knew I had a feeling they would do that. So I brought two Rat albums, one for me, one for my son. I gave my son the Rat album with Round and Round, and he's like, "Well, that's mine now." So
Yeah.
that's fine. That's totally okay with that. So they signed one thing each. They took a picture. I took a picture with them. My son took a picture, and then we took a picture together with them. And then we did that with Quiet Riot also, and all included. No extra cost for that. I want to go back to the cooking with Paul thing, right? So I was talking about, because that was basically right after the meet and greet. I said I enjoy when he does his little talking in between and whatever. So at one point during this event, and this is what you alluded to earlier, he started talking about playing deep cuts.
Hmm.
And he's like, well, we really can't play deep cuts because, what is there, only two people that like the deep cuts? And the place starts booing him. I loved it. I'd say I loved it. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? Come on, Paul, know your freaking audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And he's
place.
kind of done this before. He's
Yes,
kind of done this
yes.
thing
And then he
before.
goes, how can we not play Love Gun? How can we not play God of Thunder? Literally, he said those two songs. Ironic they didn't do either of them the next day, but it was
Yeah.
so funny when the place started booing him. He's like, all right, maybe there's 2,000 people that like those deep cuts, but I'm like, yes, okay, I understand when you're playing a tour, when you used to tour, not doing deep, deep cuts. Know your audience, Paul. And it wasn't the only
Hmm.
time. I'll bring up the second time that something like that happened, but it's just like,
Hmm.
he was like, well, he basically made reference to don't expect to hear those crazy deep cuts at the show tomorrow.
Hmm.
And honestly, I didn't expect it, but it was just like, come on, Paul, know your friggin' audience, know your audience. So I
Yeah.
just thought that was funny. Um, I ended up fortunate that that afternoon I could go to the sound check, and I was one of like maybe 50 or 100 people at most, maybe less. So we go in, and there's just doing this like blues jam at first, whatever, just, warming up a little bit. Then they do Let Me Go Rock and Roll, and the song ends. I'm like, all right, that's good. And then Paul asks, all right, do you guys want to hear Cold Gin? So of course I'm like, yeah. Almost freaking stopped. But the place is silent. Now, again, there's only like 50 to 100 people in there. The place, like literally not one person says yes. He's like, all right, how about I Love It Loud? Completely silent again.
Not even a noise?
Not, I mean, if a pin dropped, it would have like echoed through the room. It would have been so loud.
Wow.
Like there was not a sound. I was like, holy crap.
That's pretty funny.
Want to hear Cold Gin? You want to hear
That was enthusiastic.
I Love It Loud?
Except on my consent.
Sure.
Unless
Here's one we're not playing.
Buddy.
At that point, Tommy steps in and just starts playing the riff to Parasite. And then they do Parasite. And then that ends. And Tommy instantly starts playing the riff to She, and they do She. When that finishes, Paul's like, yeah, we won't be doing any of those tonight. So it just instantly made me think, all right, standard set list is coming, and clearly they've rehearsed I Love It Loud and Cold Gin, so I'm going to be hearing those tonight. But again,
Hmm.
it just made me think, Jesus, Paul, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got, when I say this, it's just a handful of people in there. There was a handful of people that I think paid for the exclusive
Mm.
event. Um, Come on, Paul. What the hell are you thinking? You
Yeah.
know, it does this, people don't expect perfection. And Parasite, Gene sang some of the lyrics, didn't sing some of it. It didn't matter to me. I was like, all right, this is freaking cool. But I just laughed. I laughed and I said, yeah, just a few hours ago, Paul got booed about playing deep cuts, and now he's getting dead silence, dead
Yeah.
silence.
Know your
When
audience.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I thought that was pretty freaking funny. But so after that, and I know I'm not even giving you time to ask questions, but I'm just going on here now. After that, they did the second meet and greet of the day, and this one was with Sebastian Bach and with Bruce Kulick. And you knew with Bruce being there, the line was going to be longer. So we actually got there earlier for this than we did for the first one, probably about a half hour earlier. And my wife actually was waiting online for the first time, I think, ever for a meet and greet in her life.
Hmm.
It's just not her thing. But she's like, oh, Sebastian Bach. Yeah, all right. It'll be fun to say to my friends I met Sebastian Bach. We got there 45, 50 minutes before it was scheduled to start. So we knew we'd be waiting at least those 45 minutes. And remember before I said once they brought you in, they split you to two lines. They don't do that this time. So it's one line. First you meet Bruce Kulick, then you meet Sebastian Bach. Well,
Interesting.
needless to say, if there were 500 people there, 450 were probably there first for Bruce Kulick. I'm not saying they don't want to meet Sebastian Bach, but they were there. If they were given that choice with a split, they're choosing Bruce Kulick. You can see they got KISS stuff. So I thought that once we got in, this would be relatively quick because we wouldn't be the odd ones out going to Sebastian Bach first. But they don't do it that way. So now we're online for 2 hours waiting to meet Sebastian Bach. I wish I could say that was the worst part of the story.
Oof. Can't imagine what my mood would have been like just by the
meet and greet's supposed to be from 4 to 5. These things always run long and the artists always stay. Well, about 3 or 4 minutes before the top of the hour, Sebastian Bach just gets up and leaves. Now we are about 10 or 15 people away from meeting him. And
now he doesn't say anything. He just gets up and leaves.
He gets up, he starts talking to 1 or 2 people, and he just walks out. Leaves.
Doesn't say, hey, see you, bye, people.
No, nothing. Now, my wife, who had been waiting there for 2 hours,
Oh my God,
never does a meet and greet, was just like, are you kidding me right now? Are you freaking kidding me? Really? The one time in my life I do this thinking it would be funny to do this with my friend, to show my friends. And he just said, obviously, there was nothing we could do about it. But I was like, and they had cut the line, realizing that this line was way too long and that everybody was going to get to meet him. Then, if he stayed 15 more minutes, he would have met everybody on the line that was let in.
Was there any reason ever given to why he left?
I think he was just being Sebastian Bach. I don't
Why,
know.
is he typically like that? Is he like,
I've heard stories that he's difficult, and I could say that night when he performed, he was 15 minutes late to hit the stage. He apologized for being late. A couple of years ago on the KISS Cruise, he didn't get on the boat because supposedly he didn't have his
I remember that.
passport. It's just like there's always a story with that man. Honestly, I was like, I think I could see a little bit why the guys in Skid Row don't want him back, because I have zero dealings with him, and this is what I'm seeing from the outside looking in. But that was egregious. 2 hours, and we met Bruce, and that was great.
So he leaves. Do you hear like rumblings with the?
No, because most of the people were there for Bruce, right? And again, they were going to Bruce, and then they were going to go to Sebastian Bach afterwards. But they were still meeting Bruce, and Bruce, as always, was a great friggin' what a gentleman. Spent the time meeting with everybody, talking with everybody. Stayed there late, so nobody was. I don't.
Was
think
he making pancakes?
No, but he did joke the following day about making pancakes. His wife was making pancakes for Gene Simmons, But that was a bit egregious to me. 2 hours.
So you see Bruce, you meet Bruce. What did you have signed?
Quick. No, honestly, I had not even brought anything to get signed. I have so many things signed from him. I just wanted to say hello to Bruce, really, just introduce him to my son. We ended up, they had like little postcards for the KISS Cruise.
Did he say, hey, what's up, fun with Brun?
He said, oh, look who made it here. It's Mike Brun, something like that. And then I just quickly introduced him to my son. My son was like, oh, I want you to introduce me to him or whatever. So, my son thinks it's cool that Bruce Kulick knows me by name or whatever. So we did that. And then obviously there's people behind me. It's the top of the hour. It's supposed to be wrapped up. I'm not going to stand there talking with him and be disrespectful. I said, all right, Bruce, I'll catch your show tomorrow or whatever. And that was it. I just left at that point. But he was him and Lisa was like, "Oh, hi, Michael. Hey, Brandon. How you doing?" So the two of them were super nice, as to be expected. So that
Right.
was cool. But yeah, 2 hours, and then Sebastian Bach leaves was egregious,
Yeah.
egregious. But at least that night, after Sebastian Bach's concert, was the Electric Kiss show, which we've been talking now
Hmm.
for what, 45 minutes, and we haven't even gotten to the main event.
Yeah. Right.
So I'll pause there because I've said so much. Do you have any questions about anything I spoke about, or any questions
No,
about the Kiss show?
no. So far, kind of everything that's been on my dossier to ask you has been asked.
Dossier, nice.
I,
That's a big word, like
yeah.
gymnasium.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So the electric show. Well, let me say this. The electric show is inside because I'd be remiss if I don't say this. I said earlier that there's different, either in the theater for shows or you're outside. When you go in the theater, you have to scan your ticket to get in, and then they scan you to get out. Okay,
Hmm.
this way they know only one person's using that ticket. Unfortunately for me, my phone died one day while I was in the theater, so I had a problem getting out. That's on me. Okay, they let me just go charge my phone, and I came back and they scanned me out. But that was on me. But they don't allow anybody with any beverages inside the theater. And as I came to learn the next day, even outside, by the stage outside, they don't allow anybody with beverages. So you have people who have their drinks or whatever. I actually had a cup that had just finished drinking and was empty. And they said, oh, you have to
Okay.
throw it away. I said, oh, well, it's empty. They said, you still have to throw it away. Empty cup, you got to throw away.
Okay.
People were pissed about this. I mean, some people bought $15, $20 alcoholic drinks or whatever. And
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, so you have to throw it away so you can get inside the theater and they can sell you a drink. Like at first I'm thinking, all right, they don't want any of that mess in the theater. No, there's literally multiple bars in there selling drinks.
Mm,
So that was enormously egregious to me.
yes.
Yeah, and you
And
can
you know
see,
what? These are the type of things you should know up front.
yes,
What to expect.
yes,
Part of the dossier.
yes, yes. So when I said I was entering with an empty cup, this happened to me the first day I was going in. I had my soda for my slice of pizza, and they said you have to throw it away. And I was like, all right, whatever, it's a soda. And I threw it away. The next day I said, I'm going to see what happens if I go in with an empty cup. And they still made me throw. I was being a jerk maybe a little bit, but yeah, they
Yeah.
still made me throw it away. I was like, okay, whatever. And I had a few people say that to me. They're like, Mike, I can't believe I had to throw away my whatever $18 drink that I had just bought. And you could see like you pass through like a metal detector, and they had like security tables, put your stuff down, and you can see just a line of drinks. You can see beers, you can see sodas, you can see bottles of water, you can see alcoholic drinks, you just a line of drinks all over the place. Everybody having a they should have made that known ahead of time.
Absolutely.
That's especially you're not talking about stuff that's cheap. If this
Hmm.
was all inclusive and all right, fine, I have to get rid of my drink that I didn't pay for. Not when you spend 15, $20 on a drink and then you have to throw it away 5 minutes later. Bad job. Bad. I don't know how to say bad job.
You're right.
Yeah. So, all right. The electric show. After everything I've said that Paul said earlier that day, my expectation is I'm getting an end of the road set list. Paul has made it known they're not doing deep cuts. And I'm like, okay, this at this point, I'm in gravy land. I expected Madison Square Garden to be my last show. I'm okay with it if this is just a standard set list. The show starts. Deuce. Okay, yeah, that's no surprise. And then they go into Take Me. And I was like, whoa. Well, I love Take Me. It's one of my favorite
Hmm.
songs. I was the first cruise I ever went on. They did not do Take Me the night I went to the indoor show. They did it the next night, and I've been pissed. I've seen them do it since then, but that song has always been one of my favorites. So second they start doing Take Me, I'm like, that's the flavor. That's what I want to hear. Is it a deep cut they've never played before? No, but it's certainly a song that they don't regularly play. So I was
Hmm.
happy. The set list included Hotter Than Hell, Got to Choose, Love Her All I Can,
Watching you.
Watching You. Yeah. So that they certainly mixed it up. I saw somebody online comment on one of my posts. I think they did like the cruise deep cuts. And that's a
Hmm.
fair comment. There was nothing that was like, wow, they never played this one before. But I didn't expect that. And I got a better set list than I expected from the show. I'll pause there to get your comments on the set list.
Yeah, I mean, I have it right in front of me. I
Uh-huh.
mean, they kind of loaded it all up front. A lot of
Yes.
the, deeper cuts, let's just call
Yes.
it that,
Hmm.
which is good. And so was Paul just doing all that Tony banter just to set people up, or like
I
how
don't
did
think so.
so you think
I
he
don't
was like,
think
oh
so.
shit, maybe we should like do that seems like a lot of scrambling with
Yeah.
not
No, no, I
rehearsing.
don't think so.
I think that's
I,
just his general opinion, honestly.
I think that's just his general
You know?
opinion. Well said. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah. I mean, looking at the set list, I mean, of course they did Cold Gin. You're probably like, okay,
I'm
there's
like,
certain
even in a
things.
friggin' 15 song set list on a cruise, I
Yeah.
can't get away from that song, but
I
whatever.
mean, even this point, I mean, when I did a podcast about the hooligans thing,
Uh-huh.
um, they said, "Oh, calling Dr. Love is like, I'm so tired of hearing this
Yeah.
song,
I
blah blah
thought of that when
blah."
they started going into Calling Dr.
Yeah, I mean,
Love.
even at this point, that song live, I mean, I enjoy playing it,
Yeah.
but I can see how that song's kind of run its course at this point. You want to hear something other, from Gene,
Yeah.
but I think looking at the sets, it's a fairly balanced set. Let's just call that.
Yeah.
You
I
get you
agree.
get you get your usual. You're gonna get your Detroit Rock Cities and your Black Diamonds and your Shout Out Louds, but you like you said, you're gonna get you got your Take Me's and you got to choose and Watching You
Yep.
and Love Her All I Can, which those are awesome songs.
Yeah.
These are not like those are pretty good. B not B level. I shouldn't even say that. Deeper cuts. Those are
Right.
great songs. Okay,
Agreed. Agreed.
so
Yeah, no, I agree. To me, the show exceeded my expectations. And, again, did Paul sound
and again,
great?
as I
No,
was just gonna lead to. Okay.
no, he didn't sound great. He's never going to sound great again. But right away, I was able to tell there's no click track, there's no other tracks, there's no backing tracks. Everything is 100% live. And I instantly, I shouldn't say instantly, about 30 minutes into the show, I'm like, ah, this is the way this should have been at the Garden.
Hmm.
This doesn't have to be perfect. This is the
Hmm.
way it should have been. And I know I said after the Garden show, and then I was done, but I was like, all right, this is kind of, I don't want to say erasing that bad taste in my mouth from the final Garden show, but it is certainly putting a damper on the way I felt from that evening. Just seeing a
Yeah.
live show, a better set list. Bruce came out for the last two songs. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I was like, all right, this is certainly a lot better. I also want to mention, so I think it was after Cold Gin, they go into that whole like guitar solo thing that's usually at the end of Let Me Know in the studio. I'm like, dan, 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 dan. And then he goes into the little solo spot that he does. And I've hated it for years that he does basically Ace's solo from Kiss Alive. And that always annoyed me that he did that. And he goes into it and he starts doing it again this night. And I'm like, my first thought is like, come on, guys. Come on. The guy's dead now. Can we let this rest? As he finishes that little solo spot for like 30 seconds where he's just playing Ace's solo, he puts his hands up to his chest, like pounding his heart, and points up to the sky. Doesn't say a word, but he's just like acknowledging Ace. And I was like, all right, that was classy. It totally instantly changed my opinion on that night of Tommy doing that. I was like, all right, he's acknowledging that that's not his lick, that's not his little solo, and just gave a little acknowledgement to Ace visually, not verbally, but he didn't have to. He didn't.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't lost on me what he was acknowledging there, and I was like, not surprised. Tommy's such a good guy, such a classy guy. I'm like, that was good. That was really good. So,
And I think it should be known. I mean, I know there was the infamous story that, Ace punched Tommy once and that stuff, but, and he was always like, oh, he's wearing, and always like Tommy. Ace sounded a little bitter, but then again, I saw a lot of comments where he's like, oh, Tommy and I are friends. I love Tommy, So
yeah,
I think it just always bothered Ace more that it was Paul and Gene who
yeah.
put the makeup on Tommy. And Tommy's like a hard guy, but he didn't really ever have bad feelings towards Tommy.
You're probably right.
I mean, I'm going by multiple interviews I saw with him. Ace
Mhm.
was always going to be Ace,
Yes.
and we've said this before. If even this, there was a debate whether he owned the makeup, he didn't own the makeup. I think we know it's clear that Kiss
Yep.
owned all that stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you can never fault the band, Gene and Paul. Evil Gene, evil Paul. They did this. They had the rights to do this. They did it in a fair manner in the sense that they purchased this from both Peter and Ace. So,
Yeah. And look, obviously that's a topic that's been beaten to death for the last 2 decades. I
yeah,
understand
yeah.
both sides, but Tommy is an employee of the KISS organization and has to do what Paul and Gene say. I mean, that's just the
Right.
way it is, right? So I
Right.
just thought it was a classy moment on his part. Again, I actually thought that was more touching than what Paul said the day
Now,
before. Yeah.
now, I agree with you. Now, with all your, rubbing elbows with people and
Mhm.
networking, did you ever hear any why it took so long for Eric to come on board, or that just it's still kind of
They
out in the.
didn't, there was not a single word said about it all weekend.
Now, I didn't figure they would say something,
Yeah.
but just like, oh, you ran into whoever, and they said,
No,
yeah, the reason what happened was, and so you
nope.
didn't hear anything like that.
No,
So
nothing.
it's still kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
But
so
I mean, the relationship between the four of them seemed like business as usual. So
yeah,
I'm going to guess it was business related.
so they do the set, they go 14 songs, they go to 15, look it up.
Yep.
Bruce comes out for the excerpt, but what for Won't Get Fooled Again? He came out for that little part,
No,
or did
no.
he?
So the song starts, look it
Okay.
up, and like 10 seconds into the song, I could just hear something sounds different. And I
Mm,
said that to my son. I said, something sounds weird here.
yeah,
I actually wasn't sure, like, is a guitar out of tune or something? I said, something sounds weird. What I wasn't realizing is that a third guitar was being played all of a sudden. So they're in the middle of the first verse, and all of a sudden Bruce just comes strolling out on stage.
yeah. Now,
No
does he come out
announcements,
strolling, dancing, or
no, no
is
dance,
it
just a gentle little walk onto the stage. No,
that was
none
the
of that.
greatest when you said it.
I knew you'd get enjoyment out of that.
Oh, that was the best,
Oh man, you gotta love Bruce, right? No, he
the
just
best.
comes out on stage and he's
Yeah,
just, no announcement or anything. He just strolls out and the place starts cheering. Everybody loves Bruce as they should, and Bruce is just like kind of hanging by Tommy and just like almost like I don't want to say off to the side of the stage, but he's certainly nowhere near front and center. He's just kind of laying on Tommy's side, and Tommy's interacting with him, and Tommy's trying to encourage him to get out, and he's kind of just laying off to the side. Bruce is um, performs all of "Lick It Up," and then right after that, they go into "Rock and Roll All Night," and he stays on stage and does "Rock and Roll All Night," and the show ends, and they all go off stage together. But Bruce, the entire time, basically stayed on Tommy's side and far side of Tommy. So he was never like in like by Paul and Gene at all. It's something I picked
so
up on. Like, I wonder if he feels a little awkward being up here right now.
and I did see that Paul apologized for not, I guess,
Paul, not
acknowledging.
one word that Bruce ever
Yeah,
joined them on stage. It
yeah,
ends and they just walk off. There's
yeah,
no word. I mean, look, everybody there knows it's Bruce. You don't need to say, "Oh,
yeah,
look, that's Bruce Kulick." Um,
yeah,
but I did notice. I'm not going to lie. I did notice. Hey, Paul never even once said the guy's name. Um, but again, he didn't need to. The crowd interacted instantly when they saw him come up on stage. But yes, the next thing in the Q&A, before it even gets started, Paul did apologize. And I'm sure, as you saw, Paul was like, hey, I was just caught up in the moment. I forgot that he was
yeah,
even joining us. And then I just never acknowledged him. And that's my bad. I don't think Paul would ever apologize for something if he didn't mean it. So I do think
yeah,
Paul really means it. I do scratch my head. How could he not realize that Bruce is on stage and how could he not say something? But I've never been performing like that and thinking that I'm retired and I'm back up on stage and the excitement of it and the nervousness of it. I don't think Paul would have ever apologized if there was something there. So I think it was genuine, but it was a little odd. A little
yeah,
odd. I'm not gonna lie. But
yeah.
but
Okay.
yeah. But to me, the stage that they used, the whole stage setup looked really cool.
Yeah, I saw that. They
Yeah.
look cool. The
I
way they
think,
did the amps and stuff like that,
yeah.
the row of amps was kind of
Yep,
cool.
it was really, and you mentioned the logo, and I've shit on that logo for decades, right? They used that on the Hot in the Shade tour. They used it when I think they went overseas. They used it in '92, if I remember right, and then they used it at the Intrepid. And I've always shit on it. It's egregious looking.
Yeah.
I saw it this weekend. I was like, the logo again. I don't
Yeah.
know why. Because at this point, it's just been ingrained in my brain for
Well,
30,
and
35 years. It's just like, oh, there's that logo
what's the
again.
word? Nostalgic. You have
Yes,
memories of these different things. So now it's like more, but it just looks so odd when you see
it
when you
does.
haven't seen it. I'm just like,
It
wait a
does.
second.
It looks odd as anything, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to pretend that I think it looks great, but I
Hmm.
guess there was something about thinking back to seeing them in 1990 and them using that logo on the stage. And it was just, I was able to
Yeah.
reminisce. I was able to appreciate the history of that egregious looking logo as opposed to sit there criticizing what it looked like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
it didn't bother me. I know in pictures, and I'm sure people weren't there, probably crucifying it online. I haven't really looked. But when I was there, I kind of laughed about it and said, "Oh, there's that logo again." So
Yeah.
the only other thing I'll say about the Inside Show, and I'm assuming, I think, yeah, Eric did mention something about this in the Q&A. I noticed all of a sudden in God of Thunder that his snare drum sounded a bit echoey to me. And from not God of Thunder, Calling Dr. Love. So on Calling Dr. Love, his snare drum sounded a little echoey. And for a few songs after that, I was like, what's that damn echo on that snare drum? And he did say in the Q&A the next day, I think he broke his snare drum during the show. So I was like,
Oh,
oh, okay,
wow.
now that makes sense. The first 3, 4 songs, I didn't notice it. I don't know if that's when it happens, either right
Mm,
before or right during Calling Dr. Love. But I just remember at one point with Dr. Love, where every time he hit the snare, it was like this loud echo sound, like, yeah, lower that damn snare. Um,
mm,
so whatever. I don't know if anybody else who's closer than I am could say if they saw when that snare drum broke. It was just something that my ears seemed to pick up that during calling Dr.
mm.
Love. It's just I heard the sound change on his snare. So,
Okay.
but no, I enjoyed that indoor show. I yeah, that's all. When
Okay.
you said I was smiling, whatever, it wiped away a lot of that negative feeling I had from the garden.
Okay. So now from that show,
Yep.
so was Bruce the last thing that basically happened
So
as
that was
far as
Saturday, right? So everything we spoke about was just Friday and Saturday.
right, right,
Sunday is when the Bruce show is. There's a Kiss Q&A on Sunday.
right.
Tommy and Eric did the Name the Tune that we spoke about. And the last thing I'll say about the Name the Tune thing, it was outside. It was freaking cold. Oh
Mm,
my God, it was like 50 degrees. It was windy. I was out there for like 45 minutes and I couldn't wait to get inside. It was cold. It
mm,
was damn cold. They were giving out samples of Moneybag soda, so at least that was good. I enjoyed that. But yeah, that was cold. But and then the morning was a panel with Bruce Kulick, Bob Ezrin, Chris Jericho, and Greg Cass, and it was good.
did you buy that DVD from Greg?
Yeah, I did, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Oh man. I'll just say this: I did not need both Chris Jericho and Greg Cass to be there. It just I wanted to hear stories more from Bob and Bruce.
And to be clear, Bob and Eddie Kramer were not there.
They
They
were
were
not there,
on
which
right.
didn't
There's like a
really bother me,
right.
although I could listen to them talk for hours,
Of
days,
course, of course.
but it wasn't like having Bob Ezrin on a screen as opposed to sitting on the stage
Yeah,
made the event any worse for me. It was just I want to hear
right,
the stories. I
right.
just wish because we had Jericho and Great Cass on the stage, there were times that it became a little bit about them. And with no disrespect to either of them, I happen to think Greg's really hilarious and Chris Jericho is talented in his own right. But I'm there because I want to hear the stories from Bruce and especially Bob Ezrin. And I didn't get enough of that to me. And I certainly did not get enough about the revenge sessions that I was hoping to get from that. So a little bit of a lost opportunity to me. And they spoke a little bit about his work on Ezrin's work on Destroyer and the Elder, which I expected as they should. But I wanted to really dig into that revenge recording
Mm,
session. And they spoke about it for like 5 minutes and it was on to another topic. I was like, I wanted more, but it was still fun, still enjoyable.
right.
And I did post that full Q&A on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. And it's worth it because Ezrin does share some stories, but I wanted more. Because I'm a nerd. I enjoyed some of that type of stuff. But
Okay.
yeah.
So you had the Q&A. This is all before the Bruce show, right?
Yes.
You had the
Yep.
Q&A. What other event did they have?
I did the Tommy Name That Tune. And then
Okay.
actually for Sunday afternoon, for a couple of hours, for the first time since I got there, I had a few hours where it was just like a reprieve, where I didn't have anything going on, which was nice. I went and got lunch with my son. We relaxed a
Was it
little
because
bit.
there was nothing going on, or there was nothing that interests you?
It was nothing that I felt I had to go see. There
Okay.
was, I think, a Kiss cover band playing at the time, which
Crafts with Miriam wasn't available?
Crafts with Miriam was not available. Nobody has a clue what you're talking about there, but you know, I just felt like after 3 days of nonstop, I felt like I needed a little bit decompression time. The
Right.
the Kiss tribute band was playing outside, if I remember right, and it was so damn cold. I'm like, no, I'm not standing out there again for that. And my son and I
Yeah.
just hung out. We got lunch. It was nice, relaxing time. I knew we were going to the Bruce concert. I knew my son had to leave right after the Bruce concert, so I helped him pack up a little bit, and we wanted to do the Kiss Q&A also. So I spent that time
Okay.
to kind of get things ready. So, and the Kiss Q&A was at
Now,
6 o'clock, I think. So go ahead.
now this might be the most important question of them all. Did anybody beat you at shuffleboard?
There was no shuffleboard there, unfortunately. So, and you weren't there to beat me. So, but there was no shuffleboard. No.
Okay. All right. So the Bruce. So now we're at the point where the Bruce show is going to start, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, before that was the Kiss
Okay.
Q&A, which
Right.
was
Okay.
fine. That's where Paul apologized to Bruce. It was a routine Q&A. You know, fans go up and they ask questions, and I'll say the fans ask routine questions. It's a little disappointing. I would hope some fans would ask deeper questions, but you know, probably shame on me when I do interviews. People wish that I would ask deeper questions than I do, right? So that's all fine and good. At one point, I forget who was moderating it, but whoever it was, asked Gene, I thought a great question. They say, hey, Gene, what was it like for you as a bassist? What was the difference playing with Peter, playing with Eric Singer, or playing with Eric Carr? How did you have to change your bass playing style? I'm like, it's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And he went into his Gene shtick. I'm like, beep, beep, beep.
No.
I'm just a regular bass player. I'm not really, Paul McCartney's a good boy. He started with all of his, Gene-isms that he does, to the point that at the end, Eric Singer spoke up. It's like, Gene doesn't give himself any credit. He's actually a damn good bass player. I've played with all different bass players in my life. He's really, and then Paul stepped in and spoke about Gene's bass playing. I was like, yeah, this is nice to hear. So it ended up a nice moment. But I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I was really hoping Gene would answer that question, because I was like, I've
Yeah.
never heard him ask that. And was there a difference for him playing with Peter compared to playing with Eric Carr? There has to be. They were very different
Of
drumming
course.
styles,
Of course.
So
Of course.
I was hoping we got more from Gene on that, but we didn't. It was, the Q&A was fun. I posted that full Q&A on my YouTube channel as well. It was fun. And there were some things learned. Paul said that they're recording new music for the avatars, sounds like.
Mm.
So, although he said, you didn't hear that from me, and it's not 100%, but he said, I'm writing, and the only time I write is if I'm recording. So I was like, all right,
That's interesting.
yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, the Q&A was fun. And then we'll go to the Bruce Kulick performance.
Same band?
So, different bass player.
Okay.
The bass player was from the band Quarantine. That was with Chris Jericho. So I forget why he said that. I think Zach Throne was touring with somebody else right now, so he couldn't be there.
Somebody else took his throne. See what I did
Somebody else
there?
took, yeah, I see, yeah, very good. Somebody else took his throne. What can you say? I mean, I don't even know where to start with the Bruce thing, because it's just, that band is just perfect. They're great, and they knock it out of the park with their performances. You can see Bruce is just throwed up there.
Yeah.
Bruce played a tribute to Ace. They did Parasite, and he acknowledged they were doing this for Ace, and acknowledged, basically, I think Bruce said something along the lines of, there would have been no band KISS for me to join if it wasn't for Ace playing, the part of the lead guitarist for the first 10 years, or something like that, whatever he said.
Mm.
It was really nice, and then they went into Parasite, which I thought was really cool. They did Larger Than Life in tribute to his brother Bob, and then they did Car Jam in tribute to Eric Carr. So Bruce gets it right. I don't know how else to say it, man. Bruce played Sword and Stone, which is obviously an unreleased song from Crazy Nights. Some deeper cuts as well. He knows what the fans want, and he delivers every time. Flawless performance. The band just sounds perfect. For me, it was a perfect. I didn't, after Bruce was Black and Blue, and I didn't go see Black and Blue at that point. Like I said, my son had to leave. I went with him to go get a cab and all of that, and then I had to pack up. My flight was at 7 o'clock in the morning the next day, so I had to go pack. So Bruce is the way I ended the cruise, and I was like, you couldn't have ended it in a more perfect way for me. It was just, in fact, I actually passed Bruce really quick. Right after I dropped off my son, Bruce and I crossed paths, and he's like, hey, Mike, what'd you think of the show? And I was like, great as always, Bruce. He's like, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And then, he was with his wife. He was heading to his room, and I let him be. I'm not going to linger with him, but I'm solid way to close. I don't know if you're looking at the set list, if you have any comments or any thoughts.
No. I mean, I looked at the set list, and again, it was I hate to say it, to be expected because, like you said, Bruce delivers, and
Yeah.
Bruce knows the fans, and this is the opportunity for Bruce to play those songs
Yep.
that Kiss is not going to play, and it's a smart way to do it. And especially if if you're hearing the Doctor Loves and the Detroit Rock Cities or whatever, whatever the usual fare, the Cold Gins
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So this is a great thing that Bruce has,
Yes.
this little niche thing that he has, that he can carve out as part of the Kiss, whatever you want to call it.
Agreed. Yep. Yep.
So
Agreed.
no, it's really cool. It's really
And
cool.
it's interesting because my son, when they were doing Who Wants to Be Lonely, he turns to me and he's like, "Is this a Kiss song?" I'm like,
Mm,
"Yes." And then when the song ended, I said, "Why'd you ask me if that was a Kiss song?" He's like, "Because I know it, but I've never heard Kiss do it in concert. Why not?"
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, "That's a good question. We'll
yeah,
we'll save that conversation for another day." He's like, and my son said to me at the end of the show, he's like, "Don't get mad at me, Dad. I think the Bruce concert was my favorite concert on the boat."
yeah,
Oh, not on the boat, on the cruise, or whatever, on the
yeah,
event. I said, I'm not mad at you. I think a lot of people feel that way usually at these events that Bruce
yeah.
delivers. So, to me, just using my son as the example, it's nice to see that even the younger generation could appreciate some of those 80s songs.
Well, there's reasons why, they're going to do it at a very high level.
Yep,
Kiss can't do it at that higher level
sure.
vocally, not to
Hmm.
blame.
No, it is what it is.
And the set list is just going to be a more appealing set
Yeah,
list for those diehard fans.
which my son
It's
is not, which is why I'm surprised that the set list appeals to him.
well, even for someone who's not diehard, when you hear like the Who Wants to Be Lonely is a
Yeah,
good, you know, a good example of that. It's like,
yeah,
oh, wait a second, I know this song. How come I've never heard this? Is such a great song, and we know why Kiss is not doing it. It's a very hard song to sing in the '80s.
yeah.
Paul's going to sing it in 2025. I mean, come on,
No, no. It's
So
yeah. So look, that for me concluded my time at the event. Like I said, I was on a plane 8, 9 hours after that concert ended.
I remember we talked before Eric was announced. You
Yes.
gave about a 6 as a faux level. Then
Yep.
you went to about a 7.
Once Eric
What
was
did you
announced.
walk out with? What was your walkout? What was your WOT? Walkout faux.
That's great. Um, 8.5.
This is factoring in, remember,
Mhm.
food, the
Yeah.
beverage, not the overall experience.
Yeah. Well, look,
Eight
I
and
knew the food was going to be what it was going to be.
I know but then you had to pay, and
And
then the
and
wallet's open,
yeah,
and now
yeah,
you're
but
like, holy shit.
the food I had was really good the whole weekend.
Okay,
So
that's good. Because
yeah,
if you paid for food and
no,
it sucked,
no,
then
no. There
okay,
was not one thing I ate that was not good. Every
okay,
single thing I had that I
okay.
ate was excellent.
So you walked out of there with an 8.5, is what you're
Yeah,
saying to me.
yeah, I would say an 8.5. I mean, I'm trying to think what would have made it better. And the only things that come to mind is change those damn Paul and Gene events. They don't need to be pick throwing with Gene and cooking with Paul. Let's do something different already.
Yeah.
Um, the performances, the electric show, I got more than I expected. I expected a standard set list. I got a little bit more than that. The acoustic show, I got an extra 15 minutes more than I thought. And I thought it was going to be 45 minutes and Paul would spend half of it talking. So I thought I was going to get like 4 songs. I got more than that. Now, again, you could say my expectations were very low and that's why I enjoyed it more. Yeah, maybe it was. Um, I enjoyed Stephen Piercy, Rat, whatever. I enjoyed Bruce's band. I enjoyed Sebastian Bach. Like there's nothing I could point to and say, gee, I would have changed this, whatever this is. I can't, except for those 2 events.
So I guess when I started saying what you wound up paying, what you typically get in the cruise.
Mhm.
Now you said that I think you said on one of your posts that Paul said they're doing a cruise next year.
So yeah, well, that's interesting. So Paul said that they're going to do a cruise next year and it's going to be back on the boat. The next day he hedged his bets a little bit. He said, we're looking for a boat. These are not always easy to find. I think Doc had said you have to book boats 2 years ahead of time because everybody's doing these kind of music cruises now, so they're not easy to
Wow.
get. So it started with Paul saying that, and I felt it being backtracked a little bit over the weekend.
I think it's safe to say if they don't find a low boat, then they're gonna
Then they'll find a
probably
high
just
boat.
do. Yeah, yes, they'll do it. Probably
Yes.
same type of thing.
Yeah. And what's interesting is twice at the dock thing, he asked everybody in attendance, would they prefer to be on a boat or on land again? And it was overwhelming. I'm going to say 80% or more of the people wanted a boat.
Interesting.
Then at the Name That Tune with Tommy and Eric, unbeknownst to Tommy, that Doc had just asked this an hour beforehand, Tommy asked the same question. And it was split like 50-50.
Hmm.
So it was a different split. And you know, my son said to me, and he's probably right, people who've been on the boat before probably enjoy that experience. If nothing else, it's what they know, it's nostalgic, and that's what they want again. But at the acoustic show, they asked how many people are here for the first time, and it was probably a 50-50 split.
Well, make no mistake. Let's just look at the facts. Okay, you're spending more money in the Vegas thing,
Yep.
and you're not getting any destinations.
Correct.
Typically, you're getting off the boat. You're in, Bermuda. You're on the freaking beach. You're in this beautiful. You don't get none of that experience, which is pretty significant. You know
Yes.
what I mean? So if you take away usually it makes two different stops, right?
Yeah.
Two or three, two different stops. You're getting all the food, right, and all that, and you're paying more. So again, what would you want to do next
Right.
time?
So
What would you prefer?
well, I said this, and I'll tell you what I prefer, but I'll say this. Yesterday, I said to my son that for a decade, my wife has always said that the KISS Cruise was not a vacation. And I have fought with her about that. I said, yes, it is. You're getting off the boat, you're going here, you're going there, and you're doing concerts at night. You're on a cruise, you're on a vacation. And I stand by that. For 10 years, I always felt like the KISS Cruises were a vacation. This, for all the reasons that you just said, we're not going to a destination, all that, I felt I was at a KISS event for a weekend.
Right.
You know, it was a different feel, definitely. So what would I prefer? I probably prefer on the boat because I feel like I'm on a vacation and I'm far from wealthy. I'm not, so please don't read into what I'm about to say, but I'm putting to the side the extra cost because I knew that going in, I was willing to spend it. So I'm not going to let that play my factor. But I just felt like on the boat, it had more of a vacation feel, especially as somebody who's not a gambler.
Yeah.
You know, Lemmy is never going to think I'm the guy to take along if you want to gamble. So if you like to gamble, no, I don't, Lemmy, sorry. So I prefer a boat feeling than a casino feeling and a hotel feeling. That's just my preference. But the event still exceeded my expectation of what I thought. I thought I can go to this and potentially be like, yeah, all right, now I'm definitely done with KISS, 100%. The Garden let me down. This, they let me down. I'm done. And I was, like I said before, I kind of erased a lot of the bad taste I had in my mouth after the Garden.
So if they do the similar event or the same event next year, are you an automatic to go?
I don't want to say I'm an automatic. No. High probability, probably. I don't want to say automatic because look, what if they double the price? I just said I'm not wealthy. I said I put the price out, but they double the price. I'm not doing that, you know. If they do this in Switzerland instead, and I have to pay for that flight, do I go? Don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
You say that, why? Is that some sort of rumor that they're going to do it in another country?
I picked the first place that came to mind.
Okay.
I almost said Miami, but I was like, no, but I'll go to Miami. So let me pick something in the distance. And Switzerland was the first thing that came to mind. So
yeah.
So yeah, don't read into any of that at all. I would probably. I know when I was there, I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was never a part of me that said, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done this. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole weekend. So would I do it again? Probably.
Okay.
Probably. And hopefully they do it in an all-inclusive type thing to help reduce the cost a little bit. But if they don't, look, I'm like a Sunday morning. I'm easy. I could have a slice of pizza and try to keep the cost lower than going to the steak restaurant. I looked at it one night. The cheapest filet in there was like $70. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like a 6-ounce filet for $60. I'm not doing it. I'm not. Yeah. By the time I go, me, my wife, and my son, it's going to be $300-400 for dinner. Now I'll go for a slice of pizza, even though that's more money than it should be. At least it's good, and I'm saving a couple $100.
Yeah, of course.
So
smart.
That's the way I do it. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to add as far as the experience? Anything else?
No, look, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, was there merch? You know, I went to merch place twice. The first day I went in there, I could tell I was going to be online for an hour and a half or so. I turned around and walked out. I said, that's not for me. Then I went back in on Sunday morning. My wife had left. I was up early and my son was still sleeping. So I just went down there. And that's when I found out that they were doing posters for each day. And I was like, oh, darn. So I ended up buying the third day poster. I don't have day 1 and 2. If anybody has them out there and you have an extra, let me know. But it was your typical t-shirts and stuff like that. Didn't want any of that stuff. Even though I'm wearing my KISS shirt right now, I'm past that stuff. So I passed on that. But they had a nice assortment of merch. But other than that, no, I think we covered an awful lot right now.
So I remember, and I don't know if they did this up front, they would give you a cabin gift at the end.
Yes.
Did they do anything similar to that, or
No,
what you got up
no, it
front
was only
was
what
the
you got up front was
okay.
I'll say all you got, which was the album and the signed poster, which I did not even think of until the last day, Sunday afternoon. And I was like, oh, on the boat every day you'd go into your cabin and you'd have these little gifts.
What about the cups? Remember they would have the colored cups for Gene or from Paul or for
They did not have colored cups. They had like a KISS Kruise clear plastic cup. But I think instead of doing different cups every day, I think they were doing that different poster every day.
oh, okay.
But they never announced it or anything. And I heard when I went in on the third day, I asked the guy, I said, oh, is there any other posters from day 1 or 2 left over? And the guy behind the counter who's working there said, no, on the first day, somebody came in and bought 60 of them and then came back and bought another 60. And I'm like, that's freaking egregious. That is egregious. I said,
they shouldn't allow that.
I said, so I said to him, I said, so you sold 120 posters to one person? And he said, yeah. He said he wanted them for his friends. I said, yeah, his friends named eBay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's
and
it's egregious.
I don't begrudge anybody. So like if we got the albums for free and everybody gets one in their cabin or in their room or whatever, if you want to sell that, your free gift, you're entitled to it. I have you didn't take that away from anybody else. You selling your record didn't prevent me from getting one. I got one. If somebody goes in and buys 60 or in this case 120 posters and prevents other people who would have wanted that, that's pretty creepy to me.
I agree.
They should not look on the last day. If there's leftovers and somebody wants to buy 60 of them, go crazy.
Right.
You shouldn't be stuck with stock. On the first day, somebody should not be able to go in and buy 120 posters.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Totally. That's a negative throw-in. So I'm actually hoping so now I'll be a hypocrite. I actually bought one extra poster on day 3 with the hopes of being able to trade it for a day 1 or a day 2 poster. I've already had somebody offer me money for it. And I said, no, I'm not looking to sell it. I'm not looking to make money off of this. I'm hoping to be able to trade it for a day 1 or a day 2 poster. So we'll see. But no, other than that, look, to me, I know you brought up a few times the money thing. Totally get that. Like I said, it's not like I'm rich. I'm sure my wife, if we added up how much I spent, she'd probably crack me in the head on this, even though she was there and she kind of knows. But I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Much more than I thought.
Do you think she would go? Would she go again, you think?
She's a casual KISS fan. If it was on a boat and it was, even though she said it's not a vacation to her, she may. If it was in Vegas again in a hotel, we were just in Vegas in March. We were just in Vegas right now, and we're going back next May to see No Doubt at the Sphere. I don't think my wife will have a desire to be in Vegas 4 times in 18 months. I think she'll pass.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that we're just staying in a hotel anyway. So I think she'll pass.
Okay.
My son already said he wants to go.
Of course. I didn't even ask that one because
my son wants to go, and my daughter was texting me like 4 or 5 times how disappointed she was that she wasn't there. So yeah. And when she heard it was going to be on a boat, she's like, well, now I'm definitely out. She's like, maybe if it's in a hotel, I can maybe pop in for a Saturday and Sunday. She's like, a boat, I'm out. So, well, let's see. But I do feel confident they're going to do something like this again next year, boat or land. That seems like a definite to me. I'd be shocked if they don't.
Yeah. Okay.
That's that. I think I covered.
I'm glad. You did cover a lot, and I'm glad it all, because we had a lot of discussion before.
Yeah.
About. I remember at one point you said, well, if they told me right now, they didn't have enough in the code, I'd be like, okay. So now the fact that you gave it an 8.5 rating and had such a good time and it was worth your money spent, that, makes me happy that,
Yeah. No, look, like I said at the start, with a lot of the messaging around it, it just
Hmm.
became a little confusing, and it was a little bit like, all right, I have that bad taste in my mouth from the garden. This just feels like, according to what Gene's saying, this could end up not going the way I want. And all right, if it gets canceled, whatever. But
Yeah.
no, I was, there was never a part of me that was bored or disappointed to be there at all.
Yeah. All right. Excellent.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing and reading all the comments. If you comment, when you comment, say if you were there or not. And
Yeah, that's good.
not that if you're
Yeah.
not there, your opinion doesn't matter, because all opinions are valid. But it's different when you're there and you're in the moment and you're with people and this, that. So just when you leave your comment, whether you think it was great or not, just say if you were
Right.
there or not.
Yeah.
If they do another one next year, what you saw this year, would you go next year?
No.
I know Vincent's answer is no. What about
No.
the people who are watching?
It's funny because a friend of mine said, "Why are you not there? You should have gone." Like, and I didn't. And I, even at that moment, seeing what was going on with social media, seeing all this stuff, it's like, if that didn't occur, like if I didn't have your access, I think I would feel differently. I got to be honest, you know. But I get to see the show. I mean, I know you're not there, and
Right.
believe me, I'm not trying to.
No, of course.
Say anything against anybody who does that. Just for me personally, you know, I've said this a lot in the past. I feel good of where my KISS life has taken me, you know, and everything I've been able to experience, minus the Cuddle Room show with Peter Chris. You know, but yeah, so I'm happy I get to kind of see it through your lens or other lenses that are make it available to us, you know. So.
No, absolutely. No. Well, I'll be interested to see. I haven't seen today yet what the reaction has been like from people who were there, and then whether or not they were excited or not. So, like I said, I look forward to all the comments, good or bad. If you're saying either one, just be respectful. That's all I ask. And just let it be known if you were actually at the event or not. If you just give an opinion, but you don't say if you're at the event, it waters down the opinion a little bit, because I don't understand the point of view of where it's coming from. So just let us both know. And as always, all opinions are welcome, and I appreciate. And you know, I got stopped so many times. I'll end on this, from people who said that they watched the show, and I'll just say thank you to every single person. I mean, my family would constantly bust my chops about the fact that, you know, I probably couldn't walk more than 50 feet without somebody saying, "Oh, hey, Mike, I like the show," or whatever. Number of people, probably number of people asked where you were as well. A couple of people did say to me, "Hey, I downloaded Vinny's CD, the Hooligans," just so you know. I had a few people comment about that. A few people say to me that that wasn't the first thing they downloaded from you, that they've downloaded other things in the past as well. So you might not have been there in physical form, but you were there in spirit with some people. So I was happy to see a few people saying to me, "Hey, I downloaded that Hooligan CD from Vin. That was really good," you know. So just I'd be remiss if I didn't pass that message along to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, my friend. I think that should be a wrap. On that editor's note.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And a double bingo.
Alrighty, there you have it. My experiences on the KISS Cruise Landlocked in Vegas. The 3 days went by so fast. I wish there was more time to talk with everybody I knew, and to talk with all of the people who came up to me saying that they watched the show. Once again, thanks so much. I look forward to seeing and reading all of your thoughts and comments about the event, whether you were there in person or were watching and reading things online. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.